In the last century, there was a priest by the name of Father Feeney who taught that unless a person is baptized as a Catholic with water, they cannot be saved. The Church rejected this, reminding all of us that it is in fact Christ, the one who saves, who came into the world to save the entire world, and we should not limit that grace of Christ. It's important, as we see in the gospel text here today, that from the very earliest days, there's always been that temptation to say that those who are not following us, as we hear John say to Jesus, that they really are excluded. And we can make it very easy to exclude people. One of the things that I've learned over the years of being a priest and a bishop is that we can really learn from people who are different than ourselves. And many times they provoke some recessive genes that are in our faith tradition that maybe have grown latent because of our willingness to listen to other people. I am the chair of the Bishops' Committee for the Muslim-Catholic Dialogue, and I can tell you I learn a lot from our Muslim brothers and sisters about the aspects of truth and really what God envisions for us as a life. I remember some years ago when I was visiting Lurie Hospital, a man came out of a room and asked me to come to see his daughter. The daughter wasn't on the list of patients that I was supposed to see, but I went in anyway and I prayed with them. They were a Muslim family. And so as we talked a bit, and then he escorted me out and back into the hall, he said to me, were you thinking, why is it that I invited you to come into my room, my daughter's room? I said, yes, I was curious about that, but didn't know how to ask. Well, he says, because in our tradition, whenever someone visits a patient, a sick person, it's a blessing. And when they visit a child, it's a double blessing. I wanted to give that blessing to you. Here I thought I was doing something for them, but he was doing something for me. He was reminding us it is a blessing to attend to those who are sick and ailing, especially for children. We often find ourselves tempted to exclude other people. We do that maybe by withholding our forgiveness from them, or maybe judging them, where we begin to think that we are the ones who can say where God's grace is going to happen, where God's grace is active. We also many times find ourselves placing burdens on other people. St. Thomas Aquinas noted that Jesus gave us very few rules and regulations because he wanted us to look for ways in which we could help one another along the way. Sometimes we do pile on obligations to other people. We withhold our love to the point until they meet our benchmark of what satisfies us. But the Lord today reminds us that his grace can break through the moments in which we find division of ourselves. But one other area particularly that we see in the gospel, but also played out in our everyday life, is the mob rule that can take over sometimes. People are built up into a frenzy to go after people, making them a scapegoat. They did that to Jesus on the cross as they got whipped up the crowd to say, crucify him, crucify him. We saw that also as a woman who was caught in sin as she was brought forward to Jesus. They all wanted to condemn her. They all thought that they were able to play the role of God in bringing about her death and judging her. We have to be careful of that in the church as well. We can work each other up in a frenzy sometimes about things to the point where we lose real rational thinking, and we also begin to replace God with ourselves. It's important to make sure that we look for ways in which we do not give into temptation to exclude. But keep in mind that Jesus came into the world, was sent into the world to save all of the humanity. That was God's original intention from the very beginning of creation. He wanted to make sure that on the day of judgment, just like he did on the day of creation, he can look at all of us and say it is good. So let's make sure that we are never an obstacle to others, but we are helping them carry their burdens, walk with them, accompany them along the way. and helping them be open to the grace of God.